This is a superior view of a lumbar vertebrae. The anterior portion you can tell because the body is facing anteriorly. This entire area is the body. We have a hole which the spinal cord will go through. We call that hole the vertebral foramen. If we look at this transverse section, we see processes extending to either side. These are called the transverse processes in plural. The spinous process, this is what would be facing out your back, is right here, spinous process. We can define the area right next to the body. This area right here, coming around, if you're going to tie a ribbon right around this area, that is the pedicle. The lamina is this area right here. Pedicle, lamina. If this is in the transverse plane, then extending upwards are the superior articulating processes. When we look at a lumbar vertebrae from the side, we can see the inferior notch. We are looking at a thoracic vertebrae. We're looking at a superior view. We see the transverse process on either side. The body, which is anterior in position in the body. We know it's thoracic because it has this very distinctive heart shape. It's unique to thoracic vertebrae. Another feature that is unique to thoracic vertebrae is the costal facet. So on the transverse process, when you see a very smooth area on the end, this is the costal facet. This is where the ribs will articulate. We still have the vertebral foramen for our spinal cord. You will also have the pedicle and lamina. Here's a very nice view showing how the spinous process of the thoracic vertebrae extends inferiorly, and you can see the inferior notch. Spinous process, transverse process in this view, superior process. In this view, the thoracic vertebrae almost looks like a giraffe. This is a cervical vertebrae. I'm a little bit closer here. So this body is rather small. Again, the body is always located anteriorly. We still have the vertebral foramen for the spinal cord. We have the spinous process extending posteriorly. We have the transverse process. Very special in the transverse process, we have these holes, transverse foramina. These allow blood vessels to pass through the vertebrae. This is also a cervical vertebrae. It is very special. It is the second, or C2 vertebrae. We call it the axis because it has this superiorly extending process that functions as an axis. This is called the odontoid process, also known as the dens, and it's very distinctive for the axis. You still have the features of cervical vertebrae, which include the spinous process, the transverse process. You still have the transverse foramen, the vertebral foramen, but as we rotate this around, you'll still see this process extending superiorly, the odontoid process. This will articulate with the atlas, or C1, as it comes and sits down. You're able to turn your head because of this articulation. Looking particularly at the atlas, known as C1, this is a cervical vertebrae. You have the superior articulating facet, which will articulate with the condyles of the occipital bone. On the transverse process, you have the transverse foramen, which are unique to cervical vertebrae, and they are still on the C1 atlas.